Hey there and welcome back to XCOM 2. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Legend Ironman walkthrough of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Last time we left off, we saw the Avatar project progress into the Doom Clock stage, so we finally decided to do something about it and launched an attack on one of the aliens' facilities. We also came equipped with plasma rifles for the first time, and all of that was enough to blow up the facility and to defeat the Chosen Assassin, so the Avatar project is back to normal and looks a little bit less dramatic at the moment. Now, we begin today's episode with a decision, and once again I would like to thank you for your constructive comments on the last episode. We have a choice to make regarding our next research project, and it looks to me like most of you were in favor of pursuing the already inspired storm gun. So let's do exactly that and unlock the highest tier of weaponry for our rangers. They are, after all, one of our primary damage dealers.
I will send word as soon as we have something of note.
Afterwards then we can begin scanning. We are still in the process of constructing a radio relay in New India to unlock the Asian continent bonus, and that's what we'll continue to do for the next 6 days. Our first interruption then comes from the Proving Ground, where we have finished yet another experimental heavy weapon, this time the flamethrower, which is indeed rather lucky as we have now in fact unlocked all 3 experimental heavy weapons. And keep in mind that the outcome of these projects is always random, so we could have very well ended up with another shredder gun. I do believe that the game's randomness is somewhat biased towards stuff that you don't already have. Either way, it is now time to order the next project, and with this one we are actually working towards several achievements as we are now going to build another Spark.
Sounds good, Commander. I'll let you know as soon as the project is ready for deployment.
Keep in mind that Julian was not actually built but acquired through the Shen's Last Gift mission, so this here is actually the first time we build a Spark ourselves, and for achievement purposes we will need to do that at least twice so that we have 3 in total. We'll talk more about that later. For now, let's keep scanning and see what else comes up in the meantime. Alright, looks like our latest covert operation has concluded, and with some success, as the Avatar project progress has been reduced by a further 2 points.
We had some wounded soldiers requiring treatment after that last covert action. With a few days rest, they'll be ready to get back into it.
Now, unfortunately, Specialist Vintage Blade was injured, but she's not part of the core rotation anyway, so I think we'll be able to live with that.
We might take the Elders by surprise if we switch up our tactics. Maybe we should try something new.
Now, regarding our next covert operation, you can see it here, we have plenty of stuff to choose from. Hunting the assassin to eventually take her out would be one of those options, but I would actually like to postpone that a bit. Apart from that, we have several resistance orders we could unlock, but overall nothing here that really strikes me as absolutely critical. However, there is still one covert op here that could be mightily convenient. It is this one right here, rewarding us with adaptive PCSs, so by completing this we could now reuse them just like we can with the weapon attachments. And since we have been somewhat hoarding them over the last few episodes, this strikes me as the way to go, especially since this mission only takes us 6 days to complete and therefore leaves us with plenty of time to complete other covert actions for the rest of the month. And so we send out Sharpshooter Rodonis, who as a pure sniper build will definitely benefit from the small aim bonus here. He will be accompanied by Echo Sierra, his Grenadier bondmate, as well as by Scientist Patrick Wombat Lathrop. So let's send the 3 of them out to unlock ourselves a whole new world of flexibility.
My followers will lead this action to victory.
And with that, we can now once again continue the construction of our radio relay.
We completed our research in remarkable time, Commander.
Alright, and just like that, the Storm Gun project is already completed, and just like that, our rangers now also have access to plasma tier weapons. That is of course, provided we can actually purchase them. As you may have already noticed with the plasma rifle, they cost a pretty penny. Now, this time around we are not presented with another inspiration, but instead with a research breakthrough, modular sniper rifles, which might be a one-time chance to make our sniper rifles even more powerful with a 3rd weapon attachment. However, in my opinion, for sniper rifles that is not really necessary, and that's for 2 reasons. Number 1, sniper rifles really only need 2 attachments in my opinion, and that's a scope and an autoloader. Sure, an expanded magazine would nullify those reload issues even further, but in 9 out of 10 missions a superior autoloader will work just fine. Reason number 2, we will very soon replace one of our sniper rifles with the Hunter's Darklands, which is overall just vastly more powerful than even a plasma sniper rifle with 3 weapon attachments. And that is also why Hunter weapons are now the project we are researching instead. I think it's high time that we unleash the full power of those weapons, as both the Darklands as well as the Dark Claw pistol are absolutely amazing.
I'll see that work begins immediately, Commander. I'll contact you when I have a full report available.
And with that, let's head back to the world map and finish constructing our radio relay.
We're reading you.
Alright, there we are. We have finally doubled our income in New India, and most importantly, we have also just unlocked the Asian continent bonus. And munitions experts here is one of the main reasons why we have not yet pursued many of the ammo projects in the Proving Ground, because why waste time on those when you can now complete them all instantly? And so let's do that right away, chuck in a few Elerium cores and see what comes out. This time there are 5 possible outcomes. We already possess tracer rounds, and let's see what else the game gives us. Up first then, we have venom rounds. These provide a flat +1 damage bonus and also apply poisoning to the target, which in turn deals damage over time and negatively affects aim and mobility. Now, a couple of enemies are immune to that, most notably vipers and chrysalids, so it's a good thing that with the second pick here we unlock dragon rounds, which are basically the same but in my opinion better, as they inflict burning instead of poisoning. Now, burning does not negatively affect any of the target's stats, but it shuts down plenty of abilities, including some absolutely essential stuff like overwatching and reloading. That is, at least in my opinion, generally preferable to reducing aim and mobility, and I think we'll also leave it at that for now. Let's keep a few more Elerium cores on hand.
Avenger plotting new course.
And let's head back into the world map and then over to the black market next, as we are now going to spend some intel to purchase a few Elerium crystals.
Market is open.
As you can see, there are also a few other things available here that we might want to grab later. As always, let me know your picks in the comments below, but the crystals are absolutely vital to our ability to actually purchase any of those plasma weapons, and even by grabbing these 37 here we will still not have enough. Nonetheless, that is all we can get for the moment. Up next, let us grab another engineer. I'm not entirely sure if we actually still need them, but to be perfectly honest, at the moment there really is nothing better available. Now, this also brings us to the first training completion of Psi Operative Esteban Red Fighter Flores, who has now successfully unlocked the psionic ability Soulfire.
Depending on who you ask, psionics could be considered the alien's greatest strength. Now our own Psi Operatives can tap into that same power.
And yes, indeed they can. You can see it on the right side of the screen. Esteban now with access to Stasis and Soulfire. I am actually not entirely sure why he does not have any ranks yet. As I have mentioned, those are not unlocked during missions but through training, so technically he should already be at the rank of Acolyte. This might have to do with the fact that Soulfire is technically an initiate rank ability. I think I have also talked about this before. The game is a bit wonky when it comes to ranking up Psi Operatives. Either way, it is now time to assign Esteban's next ability, and as tempting as Soul Steal would be, we are not going with it. Yes, the ability to deal guaranteed damage and heal yourself in the process seems very powerful, but I prefer my soldiers to not get injured in the first place, and in my opinion the best way to continuously achieve that is to give them powerful offensive abilities, and so we are now spending 17 days to teach Esteban Void Rift, a large AoE ability that deals guaranteed damage and has a chance to inflict panic. This is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful psionic abilities in the game. And with that, let's hop back in and continue scanning, which then also finally brings us to this month's Guerilla Ops. So, as always, we have 3 missions to choose from, starting with New Brazil, from where we could acquire another scientist and counter the High Alert Dark event, which is probably the one we have to go after, even if it means tangling with 26 enemies. A good number of them should be lost, however. In South Africa then, a comparatively easy mission awaits us. Only 11 enemies, but also countering one of the less important dark events, and also only giving us supplies, which we are generally not short of. This leaves us then with the new Arctic, and of course acquiring a major ranked ranger would be fantastic. However, I really don't think that countering this dark event here is worth it at all. It just pales in comparison to the absolute pain in the ass that High Alert could be. So let us embark into Warlock territory to fight both a high number of robotic enemies as well as the Lost, and let's hope that we do not encounter the Warlock himself, which I think should not happen, as this is only the first mission in Warlock territory after our last encounter. Our squad then fairly capable with bondmates Tsunami and Van Dyke, as well as with Reaper Sleeper and Grenadier Typhoon. Heliboris then fills the ranger spot, and Julian is a mainstay. Once again, we just need to level him up to the highest possible rank before the end of the game, and on legend difficulty that could take a while. You can also see Julian with the flamethrower and Heliboris with dragon rounds, so we're giving our new toys a bit of a test run here today. And speaking of new toys, we are also going to purchase the beam cannon and the storm gun now. This will unfortunately not leave us with any more Elerium crystals to purchase anything else, but I do consider these 2 weapons to be rather important. As you can see, Helleboris and Typhoon then also immediately equip their new guns. The weapon attachments from their old versions are also transferred over, and with that we would now be good to go if it weren't for the fact that we are in the process of unlocking those reusable PCSs, so there is no harm in slapping a few of those we have saved onto our soldiers now. So let's give an aim bonus to Tsunami. Even as a gunslinger she will benefit from that. Reaper Sleeper gets the mobility bonus from the advanced speed PCS, and finally Typhoon gets another aim bonus from the perception PCS. Together with tracer rounds and a superior scope on his gun, he should now be able to reliably hit everything, and considering that he's the one who applies holo targeting and shreds armor, that might be a good thing. And now we are ready to go, so let's head out into the field and see what awaits us.
Ranger deployed.
In position for deployment.
We just got a tip from a resistance contact in the field. A high-ranking Advent officer was spotted moving through the area with limited escorts. This could be a chance for us to disrupt their current operations and throw off their command structure. Your orders are to eliminate that officer with extreme prejudice. Menace 1-5, we're tracking the Advent General and his escorts, but we don't have an exact fix on their location. Sweep the area and eliminate the target along with any other hostiles that stand in your way.
As I expected, Commander, there are significant readings indicative of the Lost moving throughout the combat zone. Be careful out there.
Right, so here we are. For a change, we actually have no precise idea of where we need to go. The field commander could be anywhere on the map, and we are pretty much in its lower right corner. So I would say let's get moving, this time with Sharpshooter Tsunami, and see what we can find.
Heading to that location.
Okay, so our first move reveals a Codex and a Spectre, at least briefly. And as we follow things up with our Reaper, we also spot the first Lost. So far so good, no need to reveal ourselves just yet. Let's get everyone into position and wait out the enemy turn.
Roger, I've got my eyes on.
Okay, interestingly enough, neither of the two groups are moving, so I suppose we'll have to kick things off ourselves. And well, despite the Lost presence, Celica's remote start here strikes me as the best way to do that, as it will catch both of our enemies and leave the Codex standing with only one hit point.
This'll get their attention.
Alright, that gets our two targets moving. We also briefly spot some Lost further in the back, and I think there is no point in waiting around any further. So let's follow things up with a pistol shot from Tsunami. Thanks to blue screen rounds and a good crit chance here, she might just get the one-shot kill.
We've been spotted.
And that she does, however, revealing her also attracts two more Lost. We are at the point where some of them are actually sporting 9 hit points, so they are getting a little bit tougher too. Meanwhile, Helleboris moves in and breaks the stealth from his Phantom trait and also attracts 3 more enemies.
Nowhere to hide.
His target, however, is the Codex, which should be a guaranteed kill, and thanks to his stock it actually also is, even if the 99%er here had missed. For the two Lost in the back, meanwhile, we call upon Spark Julian. Thanks to the high ground here, he absolutely has no way of missing them.
Do I get a badge or something?
Still, that does not keep him from only delivering minimum damage against the second one, which then leaves Tsunami to clear up the mess.
Well, how about that?
Now at this point I actually made a small mistake, completely forgetting about the third Lost over on this side, the one hiding in the building. Instead, we are already clearing out the two over on the other side with Van Dyke and his plasma rifle. He succeeds in killing them both, and with that we end our turn on Overwatch. Let's hope our squad stays outside of the Lost striking range.
Scanning.
We're picking up an inbound Advent transport. The aliens are going to try and extract the General from the AO. Don't let them get on board that ship.
Alright, so now that we have revealed ourselves, the mission kicks into the next gear. Our enemies now know that we're here and will do their best to extract the Advent commander. So, as we watch an absolute plethora of enemies here all huddled up, we also take note of the timer that has appeared in the top right corner. In just 6 turns, an enemy transport will arrive in the area that we saw marked out earlier, and from that point onwards the field commander could make his escape as soon as he makes it into that enemy evac zone. That is of course what we need to stop, but as you can very clearly see, that is going to be a tad bit difficult, as we have just spotted 2 heavy mechs, 1 codex and 2 specters alongside a bunch of lost, and of course the 2 groups are not allied with each other, which means all of these enemies now activate, and as a result the mechs immediately go on overwatch, so we should be careful where we go to begin our next turn. However, first of all we unleash a few reaction shots of our own, as we have more and more lost moving in. All in all, a rather chaotic enemy turn here. The sheer number of enemies alone does make me question somewhat whether or not we will be able to catch the commander in 6 turns, but I suppose we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
No place for you to go now.
For now, let's send out our Reaper to establish line of sight with even more enemies, and then we can continue things with Heliborus, who takes a guaranteed shot against the Lost right in front of him. No critical hit unfortunately, but the target is burning, which immediately causes it to run around a bit more and also conveniently leaves it standing at only 4 hit points. And we actually have several enemies here with 4 hit points or less, so let's have our Reaper go to town on them. As long as she keeps killing, Celica runs no risk of being detected. Right, that looks a little bit more cleaned up now. Up next we are moving up with Van Dyke and Typhoon, and once again we can speed this up a little bit. Grenadier Typhoon absolutely getting the most out of his new beam cannon, easily decimating 4 enemies in a row, even those that were not guaranteed kills. And so for the moment that leaves only 1 heavy mech on overwatch. The other one cannot quite see us just yet, so it will have to move, which makes disabling this one the priority, and thankfully we have Haywire Protocol on Van Dyke, and with a hacking skill of 145 the shutdown is guaranteed. The rest of the squad then goes on overwatch. There really is not much more we can do here, but if all 3 of them hit their reaction shots against the other mech, that one should still go down, so let's hope that they do.
I am on watch.
Moving to Overwatch.
Guard duty it is.
I will always find you.
Efficiency is my specialty.
Alright, so lucky us, the mech goes down and Julian gets himself the promotion despite missing the shot. Once again, his stock playing a very important role. In terms of enemy movement though, that's about it, so let's send our Reaper forward even further, which then actually reveals a cloaked Spectre. Yes, they can go invisible, as well as the Spectre Codex part further in the back that we already saw earlier. Now, unfortunately, I did make another mistake on this turn, and that was to only move with our squad. The Spectre was just in such an uncomfortable position that I thought we'll let it come to us first. I already mentioned this in an earlier episode, but the Shadowbind ability is really nothing I'm too worried about. Although I have to admit I had hoped for some of the reaction shots here to actually find their target.
It's too late for them.
I'm not. No.
They do not, and so Typhoon gets shadowbound, and well, so far so good. That is what I had planned for.
You cannot run.
What I had not planned for, meanwhile, was for the mech to immediately lose its stun, because interestingly enough, the 2-turn shutdown does not actually mean 2 full enemy turns, it actually means 2 of our turns, including the one where we shut it down. So unfortunately it is just 1 enemy turn, which we do also get to feel quite heavily here.
You can never escape my sight.
So yes, clustering up your troops, that is definitely something you do not want to do against the mech. And speaking of mechs, we actually also have 3 more of them appear on the scene now. Thankfully though, they do stay out of sight range.
Place for you to go now.
Meanwhile, that is sadly not the case for the Codex Inspector over here, and so we once again find ourselves in a bit of a tricky situation. However, it is a situation that we can once again tackle with remote start. For some reason, the Lost Swarms mechanic does not really seem to work on this mission. If I'm not mistaken, the mech's rocket attack earlier should have already triggered one, and at this point I am fairly confident that these are all the Lost we will get.
Seize any advantage.
Moving on then, it's probably a good idea to get Van Dyke away from the burning car here. So let's use his free reload and then flank the Shadow-Binding Spectre. There is a good chance he gets the crit here, which might actually be enough to one-shot the enemy. Right, 16 points of damage, that's not quite enough, but it does put us into stock territory. And so our next move here is to put Julian into overdrive. His first shot then, the one he needs to hit, an 85%er against the mech right in front of him. And that connects, which means we can easily take the aim penalty for shot number 2. Like I said, the stock will make sure the Spectre goes down no matter what.
How many of you have I killed? If you want them to die, I'll have to reload.
And that not only drops some loot, but also frees up Typhoon, and Julian can now use his final action to reload.
Up and reload!
Our Grenadier, meanwhile, will move up ever so slightly to take on the other Spectre. And yes, despite full cover, he still comes out with an 83%er. Let's hope he can make it count. And he can, which now leaves only the mech, a good target for Sharpshooter Tsunami, who should hopefully hit with a 92%er. And she does, which means at this point it's time to get her away from the car too. Thankfully, grappling is a free action, and not only that, it even gets her into a perfect position to also take out the Codex.
Impressed yet?
Helleboris then can reload and take out the mech. With that, he unlocks himself the promotion to captain, and we are in the clear, at least for now. Still, the clock is ticking, only 3 turns are left, and 3 mechs moving between us and the enemy evac zone certainly does not make things easier.
I will reposition.
So let's use Reaper Sleeper here to sneak right past them and then up onto the high ground. At least we now have visibility of the area where the field commander eventually needs to go, even though the commander's location itself still remains a mystery. And so, with only 3 turns left to go, let's quickly pick up some loot, an Illyrium core and an alien data cache. Definitely not too shabby. And we will actually also take our time with this one and not engage the mechs just yet.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
I have a small backup plan in mind that should hopefully work. For now, we will just go on Overwatch and hope that we can get in the first strike.
Overwatch! Me and get
Got it covered.
I'll keep an eye on it for you.
And indeed, it looks like we can, even though Typhoon misses, despite all the aim bonuses. Let's see how the rest of the squad does.
Hit the plate!
Kein Treffer!
A targeting error.
Okay, so 4 shots, 3 misses. That certainly could have gone better, but at least we delivered a small bit of damage.
Target identity confirmed. That's the general. Take them out before they can escape. We won't get another shot at this.
The time for hiding is over.
And so, with only 2 turns left until the enemy transport arrives, we now have 3 mechs to take out, 2 of them on Overwatch, and we have also spotted the Advent Field Commander, who at the moment is actually looking at fairly good odds to safely get away. Of course, we will do our best to avoid that happening, but first we have those mechs to deal with, and before we can do anything meaningful, we really need to get rid of their Overwatches. So let's sneak back in with Celica here and deploy a rather tricky to place Claymore.
I'll leave this here.
Which we can then blow up on the subsequent turn with a grenade from Typhoon.
Take this!
This now removes both overwatches and puts some good damage on the two enemies. Time to take care of the one that is mostly still standing at full health.
I'm compelled to agree.
As we bring Julian up close for a 91%er.
Your poor habits must be wearing off on me.
And of course, who could have guessed the guy simply cannot have two good missions in a row. Good thing that Van Dyke's haywire protocol is usable again, but more on that later. For now, let's activate a run and gun with Ranger Helleboris to get him point blank with one of the other mechs. This now gets him the kill and was actually a very important part of the aforementioned Plan B. Unfortunately though, what was not part of that plan was Tsunami revealing two more enemies here. Yes, I could have guessed from the list of enemies we saw prior to the mission that the Trooper and Purifier here would have been hidden somewhere, but I did not expect them to be hiding right over here. This now certainly makes an already tricky situation even more complicated. Still, as a gunslinger, Tsunami has plenty of options, the first one being a lightning hand, which if it hits, might just pave the way to kill the mech the regular way. Unfortunately though it doesn't, which means the follow-up with face-off here can't take the mech out. Still, it means she can now take shots at every single enemy in range.
Did you see that one?
Now thankfully, as I had hoped, this does take out one of the mechs, everything else is really just extra. And Tsunami's turn is also not done yet. As you can see, she's standing in the middle of the road without any cover whatsoever. So let's give her a bonus action off of Van Dyke's teamwork and move her into cover. This should hopefully keep her safe from the two Advent soldiers. Against the mech then, Van Dyke once again uses Haywire Protocol to guarantee the shutdown, although this time we'll make sure to keep its precise mechanics in mind. That then concludes our turn, and there is a chance we take some more damage here, as Ranger Helleboris is still completely exposed, but being closer and only behind half cover, Van Dyke seems to be the more interesting target.
Kann mich nicht bewegen!
The Trooper's shot then thankfully goes wide, and the Purifier can't do anything on this turn, so they dash. Meanwhile, the Field Commander has actually moved closer to the action and gone on Overwatch, which could actually work in our favor. Still, let's take things one step at a time. First up, we move up Typhoon to take care of the mech. And this time we are using teamwork with Reaper Sleeper, which then gives our Grenadier an extra action. Now we are not going to use that to finish off the mech, instead we want to use it to blow up the wall in front of the commander. Because as it stands at the moment, we would have to walk a fairly long way around to get to them. This meanwhile opens up the more direct approach.
Here, catch!
And all of a sudden, the commander is easily flankable, which now brings us to Helleboris. Up first, we'll use his free axe throw to take care of the mech. And then we can use the Frost Bomb to freeze the commander, so even though the enemies will place their evac zone on the next turn, the commander now cannot move into it. So just in case, on missions like these it's best to always bring a Frost Bomb. That means we can now focus all of our attention on the other two Advent soldiers, starting by melee striking the Purifier with Julian. Up next then, we grapple Tsunami onto the high ground to get her into a lovely flanking position against the Trooper. And finally we can flank the Purifier too here with Van Dyke. And that even gets us the kill, and the Purifier also does not blow up. I had half expected that to be the case, but Julian could have taken one more hit. This way though we get lucky and can get ready for the next turn, a turn that I imagine will be rather frustrating for our Advent adversaries.
in position for the evac. Don't let the General escape. The Advent General is getting close to their evac point. Don't let him get away.
So, there we are, the Advent transport arrives and the evac zone is placed. Thankfully, this does not bring about any reinforcements, and, well, our target also stays exactly where we left them. And so, the rest of the story here is rather quickly told. First, another grenade from Typhoon here deals some more damage. I had actually also hoped for some more bits of the wall to be blown up. Unfortunately, that was not the case, which also keeps us from using Julian's flamethrower on this mission. So instead, we are moving in Helleboris for the flank, a 94%er. Let's hope he does not miss. And that's a crit, and the field commander on fire, although the frost bomb keeps them from running around. And so the kill now goes to our Reaper, who finishes the mission in shadow mode just the way she started it.
Menace 1-5, kill confirmed. That's how it's done. We have confirmation. Mission accomplished.
Alright, there we are, mission complete, and despite the excellent rating, this somehow felt rougher than necessary. I think I just made a few too many careless mistakes. Maybe I should just not record after not getting a good night's sleep. But in the end, considering what we went up against, I think it all went just fine. And so let's head back to the base, take care of those promotions, and welcome our new scientist.
How often we have counseled you, our loyal citizens, to harbor no sympathy for the dissident factions that hide within our walls. For in the end, they shall always betray you. Such was the fatal lesson learned today by one prominent Advent citizen. A tragic loss for us all.
As if things weren't bad enough between the Elders, their alien armies, and the Chosen, now we've got zombies to deal with.
And not only that, we also have 3 injuries to worry about, and 18 days for Typhoon and 21 days for Helleboris. That is tough, although we do have various means of speeding that up at least somewhat. Helleboris then also has a promotion waiting for him, and since we did not pick Blade Master at the corporal level, picking Blade Storm right now would make little sense. So instead, let's give him Implacable for some extra mobility. Julian, meanwhile, has made it to the 3rd highest rank of Vanguard, where he can now choose between Repair and Bombard. Repair giving him the option to heal robotic units, including himself, while Bombard is a highly versatile explosive blast. And in my opinion, it is also the better of the 2 options, at least for how we have built up Julian, and it will get even more powerful the further we progress. The loot section then looking like it always does, but there is one thing that's actually new here. Yes, this was just our first mission where we recovered some lost corpses. Apparently, all previous encounters with the lost had us end the mission via evac zones, and in those missions you do not recover any bodies whatsoever. That means we have now unlocked the Lost Autopsy, as well as a new scientist in Dr. Tom Popelin, nicknamed Kage. At least I hope that's the way it's pronounced. I know that you have been a patron and part of the Pete Complete Discord since forever, and I still don't know how to pronounce your name. But yes, of course, as with all other characters in this series, this one was submitted by a patron supporter. Weirdly enough, the character's submission also featured a rather strange biography. Not only was it in French, but it also referenced someone named Liang from China. Not quite sure if that's the one you intended to send over, but I would be happy to update it if you just send me a new one, and of course I would then also read that out in the next episode. Speaking of which, for today I think we have reached a very good point to make the cut. It wasn't really the usual flawless mission, but still it was a good one. Most importantly, we got something useful out of it, and we'll deal with the injuries one way or another. So, let's wrap things up. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. As always, if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.